You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, we are back for another episode of Cards to the Moon, and we've hit another little milestone with episode 40. My name is Clark at 5Card Guys on Instagram, and co-hosting with me as always is Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards and John at Trade You at Recess. All right, to kick off our 40th episode, off the top, I wanted to get your thoughts on another record-breaking sale. This time, it's the Kobe Bryant 1997-98 Metal Universe Precious Metal Gems Emerald that sold privately for, I believe, $2 million.
Jeez.
And we should note...
That's numbered to 10?
Is it numbered to 10?
I believe I think it's numbered to 10. The Emerald. Yeah,
okay.
I think there was the Emerald and then the Reds, yeah.
Great. Thanks for checking. We should also note that it's not a rookie card. So coincidentally, actually, in last week's episode, we were talking about what kind of non-rookie cards would be good to invest in, right?
There's a $2 million investment.
Yeah, apparently, PMG seemed to be a good bet. So initial thoughts about the sale of the Kobe card and the fact that it is a non-rookie card, which is now unbelievably the most expensive card sold to date of Kobe. What do you guys think?
I'm not surprised personally, and I think we see record sales every day, and I think we're going to continue to see those record sales. And, PMGs are hot right now. Whether it's going to be a fad or, I think it has a lot of long-term potential just because there's so many people in the game. And you see all the bigger auction houses kind of pushing the PMG game. So I think it was a huge sale for the hobby, one. And again, it's to answer your question or the last week's question, the non-rookie cards can be good investments, right? So,
right.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like there's so many opportunities out there that you don't know what's going to be that supply-demand monster at the right time, right? So there's always investment opportunities out there. So somebody got lucky, obviously. They invested really, really early in a Kobe PMG, and they got paid out.
Yeah. Can you imagine pulling that thing back in 97 and then if you held on to it all this time? Oh my gosh. I bet there's like one or two of these just sitting in a cigar box somewhere in somebody's like dingy basement.
Oh yeah, in the binder.
I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably share the same sentiment as almost everybody that was on Instagram that saw the news. You're not surprised and you're kind of surprised at the same time because it's a lot of money, right? But we have been seeing just so many gigantic, especially the high-end market has just been on fire. So, great to see. I can't say anything more about it. It's an amazing rare card that a lot of high-end collectors were really wanting, and it clearly, sold for the amount that I don't even know if that's a steal or not, but yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's just craziness. And for me, it's just another example that the high-end market seems to be recession and inflation proof,
Yeah, no kidding.
All right.
People that can spend that much are always looking for those kind of unique and rare cards.
Right.
For sure. And it goes back to that crossover of like even alternative investments. It's like you got to remember from even like a business perspective, people are looking to dump money into things that grow, that can be, written off as well. So it depends on how you classify stuff. So there's a lot of money out there, just period, I think, in general. So I think what you're seeing, in the high end market is something crazy just because there's so much money out there and there's actually people buying and selling at the daily level, and we see these record breaking sales every day, right? And then on top of that, you bring in like the fractional share companies where it's a $2 million card, but over 1,000 people, it's very reasonable. So there's a lot more places like that in the industry, I guess, that could be taking over those record-breaking sales because at the end of the day, it's not like I don't think one person might be, snagging these up, right? It could be, investment portfolios that are, slowly snagging these up. And, 5-10 years, they might be, invaluable pretty much, right? So,
Right. Yeah, for sure. And, going back to what we were saying about whether precious metal gems, it's just about those cards, like they just have lasting power and, people want them. Like you'll always have collectors that want them because of the shininess and like more so than any other subset that I know, more so than kabooms, which I could see being a little bit gimmicky in the future, maybe more so than color blasts. So yeah, PMGs, I don't see it going down anytime soon, and they'll always be one of those collector items.
For sure. And because it's so condition sensitive, I think there becomes like a huge market for it, right? Because now even the lower grades, they become like very high in demand in terms of the price point in collectors, right? And then the really like PSA 9s, like rarely will you see a PSA 10, but those fetch the premiums that we're talking about that become unaffordable to the average collector, right? So you got a lot of things floating around that, PSA 7, PSA 8 range in the PMGs. So I think the condition sensitivity plays a huge factor too in terms of the supply demand, the pricing that we're seeing as well.
Sure. Yeah, totally agree. Hopefully your Pavel Datsyuk PMG is gonna get to that price too.
I'm banking on it. That's numbered to 50.
Nice.
Yeah. Good pick, John. That was John with
at the card show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Card show pickup.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, let's move on now then to hobby headlines. So today I thought we can talk about the recent release of 2022 Topps Series 1 Baseball. It's always an exciting time for baseball card collectors because it signals the MLB regular season is just around the corner. This year, hopefully we have baseball start on time. But I wanted to take a deeper dive with all the changes in the hobby during the past year, like more collectors joining the hobby, fanatics taking over Topps. For me, it seems to me it's not exactly status quo with some of the major releases this year. And not just Topps Series 1, but other sports card sets as well. So, for example, I'm hearing more from collectors that they expect Topps is going to print a crazy amount of cards to meet this growing demand. So let's start there, actually. Do you think we're going to have insane print runs for Topps Series 1 or sports card sets in general? And if you do, is it even worth ripping if you're looking to purely flip cards?
Yeah, I think the print run's gonna go out the roof, to be honest. But it's also you got to understand it's how they stay in business as well. I know it's kind of like, I guess you could make the argument on the other side. Too much print run could be destructive, and we've all been witness to that, the first time around. But I think that just gives you more value in kind of like the true parallels, I believe. And it's going to get harder and harder to hit those big cards that, that people want. So it's going to create that supply demand, I think. So that, again, that low numbered cards are going to be that much more valuable, right? So I think it goes hand in hand with the market. I think you got to keep up with the market in terms of print runs and parallels. Of course, obviously, as a hobbyist, we're all saying, "Oh, print run sucks." I don't want a now $4.99 out of $4.99 paper parallel, right? That never existed before, and now they exist, right? So we could be on two sides: either complain about everything that goes into the hobby because it's not the way it used to be, or we accept it for what it is, and just enjoy where we think there's great opportunity, So I think it's good and bad because I think a lot of people get turned off. For instance, that Wander PSA 10 selling for like over $1,000, the first PSA 10, right? We all know that paper base. You look at like Tatis historical records, 2019, Tatis is a stud, and the paper is closing at like $120 right now. So obviously there's a huge correction that will eventually come, but that's just the market. I think instead of us like complaining about, oh, Topps is doing us wrong, I think the more we educate ourselves individually as players in the game of the market, right? The more we can, make those better decisions not to, buy into the hype so that we're, holding the bag and leave a bad taste in kind of like the new collectors / investors' mouth, right? So that's kind of like my 2 cents on it. I think, and is it worth ripping? Absolutely. What kind of question is that, Clark? Like, of course it is. Like, that's always a given. But it's just going to be that much tougher to pull, something that is worth like the blacks and the independent stays, right? Especially in paper. Paper is extremely, extremely tough. I did rip a couple boxes of jumbos, and I did hit a Wander gold foil.
Nice.
So I was thinking of just auctioning it off because the values are so ridiculously inflated
right now. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm patient with it. It was a big pull, so I'm gonna send it to SGC, and hopefully it comes back a 10, and I can make some money off that one. But yeah, it's worth it. You still can hit. It's fun, and it's cheap. Paper is usually cheap,
It is cheap. Yeah.
It is cheaper.
Hobby boxes are very affordable, and it's not a bad thing to try to chase, and if you don't hit it, there's other cards that are, I think, cool enough that Topps kind of put out there. So I think it's definitely worth the rip.
Cool. Yeah, I knew Hyung was going to say that, so I'm interested to hear what John thinks.
Well, I hope we all saw Scotty B's video on the print run numbers, right? I think his dad is a mathematician, and he kind of did the generic math based on the pack odds of certain cards to kind of estimate how many base cards there are, and et cetera, et cetera. I think print runs are insane. I'm going to go the opposite way. And I think it's worth ripping if you just want to have, you want to just scratch that itch and have fun. But investment wise, I don't know. Me personally, I'm a little turned off. Like, I was pretty excited to maybe pick up a hobby box and rip with the boys, but I'm not as motivated anymore after seeing all this, the print runs. And you go on any Facebook group or you go on any Instagram account, and there's just Wanders everywhere. Like,
Right.
I swear I'm seeing SSP. There's supposed to be SSPs, but you see the SSP like pulled on a daily basis. So I don't know how short printed is this thing? Are we talking like 10,000 is the new short print, and 5,000 is the new SSP? I don't know, right? Or more than that. So it is a little discouraging. And I think I talked about this in a previous pod, but it was regarding like what Jordan Brand did with Jordans, right? And this is what kind of irks me about when these companies, like what Panini did with their select product and what Topps is doing with Series 1, where they just get greedy. Like, I understand you got to meet the demand and there's money to be made and whatever, shareholders to satisfy and all that stuff. But like the Jordan retros were like the shiz at one point, where people were fighting each other in lines. And it still happens to this day, but they got greedy. They saw the reseller market. They saw how much demand there was. And they decided, number one, to raise prices of the Jordans, like by a lot. And then number two, start releasing retro Jordans like multiples per week. Maybe not the ones that are highly coveted, but literally multiple. Like, if you see the Jordan Brand list of like releases, I don't know if it's true to this day, but in the past couple of years, man, you'd see like 15 pairs of retros within 1 month that get released, right? And that really killed, for me, in my eyes, like killed that buzz and that excitement and that hype that Jordan Brand carried, and obviously let other people's into it, like the Yeezys and the Ultra Boost, and all of a sudden let them into the market, right? So I think this is the vibe I get when I see these like overprint runs, when I see Panini do with their products, and when I see Topps Series 1. It irks me to see that, if we start seeing products, I could see it this year, like seeing products just sitting on shelves, because if we start to see products sitting on shelves, I think the image of that buzz and that hype will start to disappear. And I think that could really affect the overall outlook of how people view the hobby. True hobbyists, people who are really enjoying this as a hobby, are obviously going to stick around. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, "Ooh, this is not as lucrative," or the flipping game is not there anymore, and they might move on. So I don't know. It irks me and it bothers me a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah, it's crazy.
I hear you. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. The print runs are going to be insane, but I agree with both your points, like to various degrees. Like I think it's going to be a good and bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of flipping, I think with this high print run, like if you don't flip quick enough, then you're not going to have the opportunity to make real money with most of these cards, right? Like Wander Franco base, his flagship is probably going. The last time I checked, it was about $10 to $15, which is like one of 700,000 copies. So to sell at $10 to $15 is a premium. But in a few months, I could see that being less than $5.
Oh,
like you got to flip now for those cards,
sure.
like
for
the
sure.
base, right?
And that's that. It goes into you got to remember too. It's like everybody has different, perspectives on why they're investing. So there's flippers. So one, if you're ripping to invest, there's no such thing. That's an oxymoron. So
great point.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
Great
if you're
point.
ripping, you're ripping for fun. If you hit, you're gambling and you hit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. If you're investing, hold the box then, right?
Yeah,
that might be a better play in terms of investing. So definitely don't rip if you consider that investing, right? So
right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to actually mention was I think what might change in the future is technology. So bear with me a second while I kind of paint a picture for you guys. In the future, if each card, somehow you can back it with an NFT. So we'll get into NFTs later. But if each card is backed by an NFT, which proves ownership of that card, then you don't have to print a lot. You could print a limited amount. And how manufacturers benefit from that is every secondary sale on eBay or whatnot, they get a cut of it. Like it's in the NFT smart contract. So that kind of eliminates the issue of overprinting and trying to get as much as possible while, devaluating the whole set. So if you keep the set limited and you could get a cut of the secondary sales, then you get your money as a manufacturer. So that solves that problem. And as a collector, you like having cards that are low serial numbered or just in limited supply. And like we talked about vaulting, like this is even going to be like a reality that happens sooner, where if you hit a big card, you don't want it in your home. You're okay as an investor to keep it in a vault, right? And if everyone has their big cards in a vault and you want to buy a card that's in a vault, you just have to transfer the NFT that proves your ownership. And you could keep it in the vault. You just keep it there. And all you have to do is like, here's my NFT. I own this card. If you want to pull it and ship it to your home, then you could do that too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that's kind of what the future is probably going to look like. Something like that.
That sounds crazy. That sounds amazing.
I think it has to. It's inevitable, right? That's what we were talking about like this past year. Somehow you got to associate that, just so that, there's smart contracts involved. Like this thing actually is going to make the industry better by like such things as controlling print run, right?
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Yeah. And, it might take, I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but yeah, overprinting and just with, I think Michael Rubin of Fanatics, like he mentioned in a separate interview, he thinks like the industry is still small and he wants to really grow the sports card industry 10x or something like crazy. So the answer isn't producing even more product to meet that demand. It's going to be impossible, or it's not going to be impossible. It's just going to like just crash the market.
You definitely got to do digitally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So if the market gets bigger, we have to be a little bit more innovative in what we do in terms of product releases. So,
and I know hobbyists are cringing right now.
Old school guys. Hey, I consider myself one of those old school guys. I'm just adjusting to the inevitable realities that are coming.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a few more questions concerning Top Series 1 and just the sports cards industry or just where the hobby's at in general. But let's focus on Top Series 1 for this next question. Number 2, Wander Franco is obviously the big chase card in this series. And we talked about how most think his rookie card in this set is his true flagship, despite what Beckett says. So what do you see the value of Franco rookie cards in this set being, including maybe if you include some of the parallels that are out there?
Right. I think, like I said, those number cards become that much more valuable.
The OG number cards.
The OG number cards. Your clears, obviously, the clear is out of 10. You got your blacks out of 67. Your indies out of 76, right? And then your Father's Day, your Mother's Day out of 50.
Camo.
So like those kind of classic parallels will, I believe, like people are after them. And the more people that are on Wander Franco, and if it's not like from an investment, a flipping perspective, right, where they're looking to, because a lot of these guys, they're after the high end blacks, the SSPs, and they're paying like $3.5K, for it, and which is ridiculous. Like if you think about, none of Acuña's or Tatis cards started that high, but I think it's all about the anticipation. One. It's those hobby logic. You're expecting them to be similar, and you look at cards like Tatis or Acuña and where they go, or where they could potentially go if that player gets to that point. And I think a lot of people do that on anticipation, thinking that this is the only time that you can get those type of cards, right? So it's if I ask you a question, for instance, I picked up a Luis Robert Topps Clear. It was a PSA 9. It was highest graded at the time. There's only 3 that surfaced since. And I knew that at the time I had to overpay at release, right? Because I'm never going to see it again, nor am I planning to flip this right away. So there's that too, right? So I think there's a lot of collectors that are true long-term investors that are looking for the flagship that hold extreme value. And a guy like Wander Franco, I mean, you see he basically kind of survived or ignited baseball again, a spark into baseball, because it was kind of dying a bit in terms of the with the whole MLB lockout. So someone like Wander Franco could shake up the card world like this, and especially in paper. Like paper is the most boring rip ever. Like, sorry, like I like from an investment standpoint, if you're thinking about ripping paper, good luck. Like you're better off like burning matches, because it's boring. You're not gonna hit and then flip for amazing profits, right? Paper is really, really boring, right? So yeah.
I agree with Hyung's point on some of the rare cards, especially if something like a clear comes out of the woodworks. Those are just cards you don't see. But overall, right now, I don't, everybody, these people who are buying, you get the black. I get it. Black is highly desired. You pay $4,000 for a raw. Like nobody learns their lesson. Like how many times, time and time again, does everybody say, do not buy at release, do not buy at release, do not buy at release. And everybody is buying up at release. And it's just like, I don't know. Like the black will surface again. You'll see it somewhere. Like the clear, that's a different story. But black, Independence Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, they are very, very low. But they will surface again. And they won't be $4,000 USD raw. Like it's not going to happen, right? So, but with that being said, like overall, Wander, I can see why these prices are so crazy from some of the normal chase cards, because Wander is like one of the most biggest can't miss prospects that have young players that have come into the game over the last little while, right? We've been blessed to have so many within the last 4 years, but Wander's another one of those that are coming into the game. I don't think I've heard not one person ever say, Wander Franco, I don't know. I think he's a little bit overhyped, or like, I don't really see what other people see in him. I don't think I've ever seen that opinion out of anybody. Like everybody says, this guy is the real deal. So that's why the hype is real, because like everybody is on him. Everybody wants him. So it makes sense that this hype is that crazy. But man, like it's just, you don't learn your lesson on release day. Like even the PSA 10 going for $2,000-$3,000 or whatever it's going for.
Right.
Like who's buying that? Like, it doesn't make any
Insanity.
sense. Like
It goes back to Hyung's point. There's a lot of money out there.
totally.
There's a lot of money out there, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. There's just
Like
a lot
I
of money.
mean, I know there are people who are pretty reckless with their money, but you can be reckless, but don't be stupid. Like I would rather spend $2,000 on ripping boxes rather than going for a Wander Franco base.
And just to put into perspective too, it's like there's a HGA Tatis Independence Day, a 2019 HGA that's been sitting on eBay at like $3,500. Nobody have been touching it. Like this is a Tatis Independence Day, so there's no way, there's no reason why a Wander Franco should be outselling, like an Independence Day should be outselling a Tatis, for instance. Right? So it's like that's I guess the logic that you always use. Look at history. Look at similar players, comps, and what their cards are doing. It'll give you an idea if the market's inflated or not, right? So I mean that's something that like is an easy answer, right? But
totally.
yeah, I'm just saying, you know what? It is overprinted. Everything it sucks, but you know what? A guy like Wander Franco could save, tops. Like Series 1's usually boring as heck, and he's able to revive essentially baseball, the whole hobby at this point, right? And spark it. So I'm hoping that this will bring momentum into spring. Baseball's clear to go, and spring training starts, and we're good and carry that momentum forward. But we'll see.
Yeah, Topps isn't stupid. They clearly held them off until now for this release, and it's working, right? Like, I mean, everybody's ripping, everybody's
totally
chasing. So,
Yeah, not much more to add than that. But yeah, for me, I'm kind of looking at the rainbow foil and even the gold foil more for PC. Like, it's just, right now there's, every time you ask, there's a several more listed. So it's kind of keeping the prices down and it's even probably going even lower. But yeah, ultimately, if you trust the talent, those flagship cards will retain some value, right? Especially, definitely the lower serial numbered ones. So if you're looking to for a card that's worth investing in, lower serial number, stay away from the base. All right, talking about long term. You're right. All right, talking about hits. Let's talk about case hits, and specifically the home field advantage set, which looks very similar, as many pointed out, to the Panini's downtown cards. Just want to ask if you guys are a fan or not a fan of those.
Well, it's a tough one because I appreciate their effort, because it was the effort's there. I don't know about the execution. However, I do appreciate the cards. They are nice, but they are like, that was the first impression that everybody said. Like it was like a blueprint of Panini, right? Like literally you just copied them, have some creativity, right? But I think in the long term, because they're rare, because they made it case hits, and I think long term people will forget about that. No one cares at that point and they just appreciate the card for what it is, right? If there was maybe a story around Kabooms when they released, people like, who cares at this point now? Kabooms are hot, so it's like no one goes back. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there because of the rarity, right? And they seem to be selling decent right now. Whether they will hold, that's one thing, but usually that's the case with a lot of case hit inserts, especially baseball. They don't have a good history, and that's what worries me. I'm hoping one day the market changes with baseball. Basketball, insert market's hot, or it was hot in certain areas. The big inserts are really, really hot. Baseball's lacking that, I think. And it's a little disappointing that Topps can't do a better job with the inserts and making it a little more chase worthy, right? So
yeah,
I can see that.
First of all, I'm very excited that Topps has finally gone to this sort of case hit idea that we've been begging for. So that aside, it's awesome to see. I was pretty excited to see it. But execution, what Hyung talked about in terms of copying, I mean, Panini and Topps, they copy each other all the time. Not a big deal. But, for Topps to come out with their very first ever, like, legitimate case hit that the hobby wants, and then to sort of blatantly copy when all eyes are on them, like they deserve critique for this. They deserve to be like memed onto the internet for all of this stuff, because like, why would you do that? You know, like all eyes are on you on this, and why would you make the exact same design? So, you know, on that point, I'll critique it, but regardless, I'm still excited, man. Like, it's awesome to see them put a case hit that's not some random white patch of like Aaron Judge or something, you know. So this, I'm excited, but I'm actually more excited to see, I'm going to assume they're going to have the home field advantage or something like this for Topps Chrome. I'm more excited for that, but it's good to see that they're going in this direction. Pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big fan. Like, it's obviously a blatant ripoff of the Panini Downtown, but like you just mentioned, John, like everyone copies everyone. Actually, Scotty B had a good video about the Panini case hits, the case hits of the Topps home field.
You're
advantage.
even brainwashed. You're even brainwashed.
I can't. I'm saying Panini Downtown. No, but like, you know, it's yeah, totally excited about Topps finally coming out with, you know, decent case hits, and whether the design was copied or not, like, I don't really care. Yeah. I like the fact that what baseball was missing was like these highly sought after insert cards, and they had the license to have logos. Like Panini was still doing their version of their like
Color blast
baseball,
and this and that.
Exactly, right? And you know, like we talked about non-licensed cards and how there's a cap or a limit to the value of those cards, and because just how they're perceived. But for me, like with Topps having this case hit, this insert, and having the MLB license, I love the fact that we could, you know, it's finally here, right? So I'm one of those dummies that bought early. Like I got a Vlad home field advantage for $150. It's under 100 now, right? Like I could see some of those listings, and I got a Aaron Judge one for like $90. Still cheap, but I think you get it for lower now. Yeah. So for me, the bigger question is, you know, it's a case hit, awesome, but how many cases are there?
I know.
That's true.
I'm a little worried about that now. We're just talking about overprinting.
Yeah, the print run comes into play, eh?
I could have sworn. I think Scotty B did a numbers thing for case hits too.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think it was something like 5,000 or something each printed.
All right.
Yeah. It's not.
Oh, really?
It's not SSSP like we're thinking it is.
Yeah. We're just used to hearing case hits as something really, really rare, but I guess it's relative.
When there's 5 million cases. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I just got a couple. Maybe I'll grab one more now that the prices are going down.
Dollar cost average, right? That's what we've learned.
Yeah.
Dollar cost average until you're broke.
Yeah. Or, you know, like there's a Tatis and Acuna and Trout. Those are available that I haven't bought yet. So get those at lower prices.
I mean, at this point, you could probably collect, at some point when it goes down enough, you could probably collect the entire set, right?
You know what? That might be a smart play if you can afford it.
And then grade
long term,
them all,
I think that's great.
Grade them all and have the full set graded. Like, I think that'd be awesome.
Putting ideas into my head. All right. Okay, let's the next question is, any other cool SP or SSP cards in this set that you're aware of that maybe collectors should know?
Obviously the SSP Wander Franco is a huge chase.
Which one is that again?
I think he's pointing up. It's uniform dirty in the old school tropical stadium uniform.
Yeah.
And then there's actually in the home field advantage you're talking about, there's actually legends. There's a legends edition that's actually even more. It's like a SSP version of the home field advantage.
No way.
Yeah, they're the legends of the game. So the what's
Griffey.
called like the Derek Jeter, Griffey, Cal Ripken Jr., Roberto Clemente, Willie Mays. Yeah, so those are like even more SSP. So I think a lot of people are. And they're selling for actually a healthy amount. I think a Griffey sold for, you know, I haven't checked comps lately, but I remember I've seen a sale for like $800 on a raw Griffey, right? So, and it is a lot more rare than the modern players. So,
wow, I didn't know that.
Love it.
All
John,
right.
you have any thoughts?
No, because I don't know what
Checklist.
Yeah, what's out there? Because Hyung just brought my attention to that. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure there's a bunch of like SSSPs because, Topps will always insert these little SSSP Easter eggs into the set, and we won't know what they are until they sort of start to appear. So I don't know if you can't really say if they're ones to look out for because we don't know what they are, but certainly like a Griffey or Jeter home field advantage, that sounds awesome to me. That's totally worth chasing.
Totally forgot about that. I got to look it up on eBay after the show, see where they're at now. I think there's a Mike Trout one where he gives a thumbs up. It's kind of corny or cheesy, but I think that's an SP card too for people that are chasing Trout. But other than that, I'm not too familiar with the SP.
I think what's big too because of the Wander Chase is they have silver packs in each hobby box. So in a hobby box, they have a silver pack, and then a jumbo, they have 2 silver packs. And those silver packs are kind of like, they look like the inserts, kind of like the Mojo kind of like looks.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And those you could hit Wander autos, and those that's another reason why people are ripping like crazy because these boxes are like $99 for a hobby, and then you hit a Wander insert auto off a silver pack and it's like $1,200, right? So there's that, and then there's the chase of there's another insert paper auto for Wander. There's a couple like rookie autos that you could pull for Wander. So I think obviously Wander's the big chase. Like there's nobody really else but Wander. But yeah, you got the cool little hits like the SSP home field advantages and stuff like that make it somewhat reasonable because you could still pull like older legends autographs and stuff like that make it interesting. Cool. And it's not like you're dropping like $500-600 a box and you're scratching your head, right? I mean, it's very affordable, so I think people are relatively happy just because the price point's there, but we'll see on the secondary market.
It's
I was gonna say, all right, I changed my mind, add to cart.
No, it's I think it's like 130, 140, 150 bucks. Like it's they didn't jack up the prices, so that's good to see. And I think it's just a fun rip, but obviously they're milking Wander Franco with the set. So, but definitely worth the chase. Stud player. I think we're all big fans of Wander.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on then to our next segment, just want to ask you generally now, speaking about baseball card values this year with the lockout. We're still in the lockout. It might change by the time this airs. Who knows? But are you guys worried at all that it's going to impact baseball card values if this drags on?
I am not too worried. I mean, my thinking is, man, we've made it through a lot of stuff. Everybody thought even like the whole COVID thing, people are panic selling and it blew up, right? Not saying we're going to see another boom, but I don't think it's going to be doom. You know what I mean? Okay. And I think as baseball or at least in the northern parts of town, weather starts opening up, more and more card shows, more and more in-person deals. People are feeling good. Weather's out, I think the market's going to still be pretty stable in my opinion.
Yeah. From a sports card perspective, not too worried because I think this is, might delay the hype of the season starting by a little bit. I'm just more sad, like from a stats perspective, like when you watch your favorite players and you watch, we're talking about Mike Trout, like we all want to see them build their stats over the course of a full season. And we really haven't been able to do that in the last little while. And now that we're kind of coming out of it, to know that maybe we might have an affected season where they're only playing 140 games or 125 games. Right. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that. That'd be sad to see again, like another year of affected stats for all these players and for baseball fans in general. So that would be the only thing I'm really sad about. I think we're all optimistic that there is going to be a pretty lengthy season. And if there is a delay, probably like a really small one, but who knows? I don't deal with the back end of what's happening, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully everything starts up soon. I'm with you guys. I'm not too worried. In fact, if there is a little bit of a delay and people are getting antsy and people need to be more liquid and they start listing their cards, I'm hoping to find good deals in the,
Always
in the
find
prolonged
good
off
deals.
season. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm doing. But,
I will say I feel like how some people are going to wait for the hype of the season, like the preseason to sell. I think for this year,
True.
it's whenever they announce the season starts. I think that's the day to try and sell. Like I feel like that will be the hype day, right? So
I think more people
something
are
to
doing
watch out
that
for.
too. Yeah, because like I'm waiting for these deals, but yeah, not a lot of people are listing their baseball cards yet.
No,
they're just kind of just waiting, which is a smart move. All right, good stuff. Let's move on then to our new segment we're calling Listener Submissions. We've been getting a lot of listener feedback and questions from social media, mainly through our podcast Instagram channel at Cards to the Moon, one word. And we also put a call out for more questions this past week. So thank you for all those who submitted a question this week. And for this episode, we picked out a few that we'll try to answer for you right now. All right, so the first question is from Coach Frost on Instagram. And he wants to know, why do cards graded by PSA that are Gem Mint or PSA 10 generally worth more than cards from Beckett, BGS, or any grading company that are also considered Gem Mint? So that would be BGS 9.5 or SGC 10. And I think it's a good question for those who are new to the hobby in particular, right? So who wants to tackle this one?
I feel like I'm new to the hobby because I still don't know the answer why PSA 10s are selling for what they sell at. I still think there's extreme value in the BGS. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Logic, it's one of those hobby logic things, right? But it also shows the power of branding. We talk about this and, market relevance. All that comes into play, and this is where PSA, unfortunately, or fortunately, wherever you want to look at it, or if you're a supporter, they have it their game on control, right? So this is where society runs, and they dominate that game, and they have the market presence. Whether that's going to keep the same or not down the road, that's where I believe there's extreme value in SGC 10s. And BGS 9.5s, right? So yeah, absolutely. I have no other answer than that. PSA 10s are overpriced, and all the other Gem Mint companies are underpriced.
But the brand, that's a good point that you bring up.
It's the brand.
It's 100%. Yeah, it's 100% the brand. I mean, I didn't really. I was curious as to know the history, so I kind of looked it up a little bit, and I mean, it makes sense. PSA was the first big company to come integrating. So they're the first that came in and tried to establish. So they have the history. They're established. They've built this gigantic reputation from day one. It was in the mid 90s that they came in, and I think SGC came sort of late 90s, and I think BGS was the last one to enter right before the millennium year. So they're well established. They've built the reputation over the last 20 years or more, 25 years. And it really it's branding. After all of that time, when you look at the historical context of like the number of cards that have been graded by PSA, I think it's like, I don't know, even know the number, 75 million or something ridiculous. Yeah, and then you look at second place, which is BGS with like 12 million. There's just way more PSA slabs out there for people to see, for people to get used to. Bigger cards are in the PSA slabs. It just looks a lot more premium. When people touch and feel it, they get used to the weight, the size. They're just used to everything. And it's just, they've built that brand over this. It's not, it didn't happen overnight. Some people are thinking, oh, it just happened in the last 3 years and I don't understand. No, this happened for a long, long time that they've built this. Now, that's not to say that they're perfect. Clearly, they've got their issues right now. And they're getting their criticisms. But the brand is still super powerful. You can tell by the way the pricing works, right? So we all believe the way BGS grades, the way PSA grades, the way SGC grades, they're all very reputable in terms of straight grading. I trust all three of them to grade my cards very fairly and, grade as professionals. So grading is the same scale, but the pricing difference is just, it just comes down to branding. That's it. Like, that's the bottom line.
And on that point about the grading reputation, like, I still think there's a perception that it's harder to get a PSA 10, right? And I think there's value, like people value that perception. But I think we found out recently, like gem mint rates are actually harder for SGC, like some of the data, like the later data that we've seen. So I think as we get more data on what the gem mint rates are for each of these major grading companies, that perception might start to change, that PSA 10s are not the most difficult to get. And that might play a factor in like, what does that do to the brand? And the thing about brand is it's strong, but if you rest on just your brand history and you don't do anything to change, like that could change almost overnight. Like people can turn quickly, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, SGC or BGS is the favorite brand, and then the values flip for all those graded cards, right? But right now, yeah, PSA 10 definitely has a brand stranglehold in the hobby, for all the reasons you mentioned.
And PSA was, from the very beginning, I think PSA was the smartest to use a grading scale of 1 to 10. I think keeping it simple, like clearly for me, I think that BGS and SGC's earliest downfall, and it sounds so silly that it's just the perception of the number 10, but BGS deciding to choose Gem Mint as 9.5, and then obviously like their quote unquote.
I think it hurt them, yeah.
Oh, that totally hurts them. And same with SGC, because SGC was a scale of 1 to 100. Right. And their Gem Mint used to be 98, which also just looks ugly and it just looks off, right? It's so silly to think because it's the exact same grade. But
I think a lot of people get confused with that too, because they assume that SGC 9.5s are Gem Mints when Gem Mints are 10 at SGC.
Exactly, and then the gold is
SGC.
A
9.5 SGC is not the same as a BGS 9.5, but a BGS 9.5 is the same as a PSA 10 technically. And then technically same as a SGC 10, right? So
Yeah, so I think that they were smart in that, and that's my biggest knock on some of these new companies coming in, like HGA and FCG. Like, why knowing this did you choose the 9.5 grading scale? Like that's, I don't know.
I also think that hurts PSA in a lot of instances, potentially in the long term, because like I said, I've been a personal testament to this. I could crack out 9s all day, and I'll roll the dice that they are BGS 9.5s, right?
True.
And this is where I think there's a lot of extreme value in PSA 9s, and this is why I always said grading is so subjective, and it's insane how much these premiums fetch based on someone's subjective, grade. Opinion on the card, right? And I know it is what it is. It's in the case. I get that, but I believe, I think long term it could hurt PSA for not having that 9.5 grade, just because that 9.5 grade is important in our industry. The way it's standardized right now is that PSA 10s do rule, right? And BGS 9.5s, they go for almost half the price of PSA 10s, right? So that's the retraction, but those are usually at the min gem level, right? So I think where BGS has a big stronghold is the subgrades of what you're actually getting, because a strong BGS gem 9.5 with 210 subgrades, let's just say, their prices will fetch a lot stronger than the typical BGS 9.5 min gem, for instance. There's such a wide variance is what I'm saying, right? So, and then your BGS 10 is super inflated, right? So I think it was needed, and that's where the whole debate with SGC comes in. Because they use the 9.5 system where, that's the same as a PSA 9 now, right? So it's like, I think people, when they're bidding on SGC 9.5 slabs, are assuming that that's a better grade than a PSA 9. And you'll see comps finishing stronger, right? So I think, I believe that it has to do with a lot of education. One, like just understanding what's a gem mint from each company. It's very, very important. And I believe with your point too, Clark, about SGC's gem rate was a lot tougher. I think that is also going to change because SGC never really dabbled into modern cards, right? So the majority of PSA 10 numbers are probably more PSA 10s just because they get all the modern cards that are being submitted based on the price point the $15 economy price point that they blew up on, right? So I think as time goes by, you're going to see a lot more SGC 10s, right? But at the same time, I still think there's a lot of value in those SGC 10s because I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times you cross that over to a BGS or a PSA, it will have a strong case, right? So there's that. The SGC is very fair with their grades, and there's long-term potential there as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think with SGC, like really increasing their brand awareness because their turnaround times are amazing, whereas PSA and BGS is they're still trying to catch up with their backlog. Like I think, and then more people are submitting to SGC. I think, the more cards there are that are branded SGC, like I could see those values increase as well because, case in point, Hyung, you submitted some of my cards to SGC for me, and I got about 7 of those slabs back, and I sold half of them already on eBay. Like people are buying SGC graded slabs now, and I think the more people that are willing to buy SGC graded slabs, the prices will adjust accordingly as well, right? So the buyers ultimately have to be the people that dictate the market, right? So if you truly believe there's value in SGC, you're the one that's going to set the comp, or you actually believe that it has value at that, right? So that's why I encourage people to, if you believe in a company, whether it's, SGC or FCG, those companies, if I think there's extreme value on some of those cards, and, a good way to support them is, purchase it. Right at that comp because there is value, right? So eventually it corrects itself is what I'm saying with everything, including all this whole market, right? It will eventually all correct itself. Yeah. I didn't expect us to go along with this first question. I thought this was the easiest one. So we have 2 more. Let's see how this goes. Second question is from C_N_28 on Instagram again. And this is more of a strategy question. He asks, is it a good strategy to buy 10 Bowman Chrome first base cards of a prospect and try to flip them for $20 each? Or should he just stick to buying the first Bowman Chrome autographed card of that player? I'm not sure why he's at $20, but maybe I think what he's asking is whether flipping base cards of a prospect is still a viable play. What do you guys think?
I think it absolutely is. I think a profit's a profit. And those price point work for everybody. So if you want to do autos, you could do the same thing. Autos just happen to be more demanded, right? So, but they're more expensive. So they might not be in play for some people, right? So I think you could do, that's what I love about the card industry. You have every single price point covered, right? You don't have to always be going after the PSA 10. If you can't afford the PSA 10, go for the value pick, right? So there's always that, including base game. I think there's still opportunity, right? You just have to look for those opportunities and be able to kind of forecast and see whether you can, this will grow. And the way you do it is just fundamental, just doing your due diligence essentially, right? Just looking at previous comps of past history and making sure that it follows suit, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunity still in wherever, and a profit's a profit. Doesn't matter what you're flipping, right? So if you're making money, $20 is $20 at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think early on, it's fairly similar. If you're looking to get in and get out or flip, the game is to flip. Early on, if a player goes off for whatever reason and his card starts to spike, you're most likely going to see 3x in base or whatever X it's going up to. So let's use the number 3x in base. You'll probably see the same number 3x in their auto. That's kind of how it works. So if you put 100 into the auto, it turns into 300, and you put $100 into, 10 bases, that'll also turn to 300 because they all 3x. So it's the same money in, same money out. But the lure of going after the first auto is if that player, i.e. Wander Franco, starts to become like the legendary player that people think he is, then the bigger cards then start to separate themselves in terms of pricing because of supply and demand, right? So that's the lure of having the auto. But in terms of like that flip game, I think it's all very similar. Now, the only thing is, and this is a point Hyung used to always bring up with me when I was toiling in the low card base game, is that yes, it's the same money out, But with base, it's a lot of work, right? With the auto, you're dealing with one transaction, whereas the base, you could be dealing with 10 transactions. And then you're also dealing with people like, penny pinchers, right? You're dealing with like a different crowd, and you're going to sell a car for 20
Shipping
bucks.
10 items too.
Right.
Yeah.
Comps are 20 bucks, and the guy's going to be like, okay, how about $19? Like $1 difference. Like you're just going to deal with a different clientele, shipping, the amount of work that goes into it. So that all has to kind of factor into your strategy and what kind of effort you want to put into this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess ultimately I agree with you guys, but it's like, how much do you want to flip it for? Like, there's an amount where it's just not worth it. Like you said, for shipping. And, back when the hobby was still, like, even 3-4 years ago, grading was affordable. Now, grading is, you have to price that in as well. So now, like, some of these base cards are not worth going, I guess you could go through SGC now, or like one of the ones that are cheaper and get it back to you faster. But PSA is probably out of the question for a lot of these base cards, especially of prospects, right? And I think the bigger question is with Bowman Chrome first base cards, like these prospects, you have to be patient. Like, you're not going to be able to flip them right away for a lot of these players. Some of them, they won't even play in the big leagues until another year or two. So if you're willing to wait, then sure, but a lot can change within 1 or 2 years as well. So that's something to consider as well. All right, third and last question for this segment comes from Gabe on Instagram. He asks, what's the best sports card NFT you have or want? So I'm not even sure if you guys own a sports card NFT.
Great question.
I personally don't, but I do. I'm very excited to see the development of sports cards and NFTs. So I believe in the fundamentals of NFTs itself. So yeah, let me know when you find something worthy, because I'm not
seriously
big on like investing in like IPOs of certain companies that use that technology, right? It's like those are the companies that are gonna go up and down, fail. You don't know how that utility is being utilized, right? So that's why for me, I'd like to see the technology and see where it's going, and then kind of get into that space eventually. But I'm interested 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't own any. I have some mild interest into NFTs, but I think I've been more interested in getting into NFTs more than sports NFTs. But that's also probably a product of just not seeing much sports NFTs to begin with, enough to pique my interest as a sports card hobbyist. So I think as more and more stuff comes out, and as rare images or things that I like to see, imagine some Kobe image that comes out that's numbered to 24. I probably couldn't afford it, but something that I might be very interested in. I could see myself going in on it. But yeah, Clark, we will both lean on you on this question for sure.
Yeah, no, it's because I'm sure a lot of people agree it's so early in that space right now. Obviously, of NBA Top Shots. That's probably where sports card NFT, the whole concept of it kind of blew up. So everyone knows about NBA Top Shots. I got in early with NBA Top Shots, and there was like a period of a month where you just could not lose money. You just pick up a digital pack, and then you could flip it on their very crude marketplace. And for whatever dollars, like you just make a quick flip. And the benefit of NFT trading is like stocks, like it's digital, so it's instant, no shipping costs, no fear of it being a fake card, like all these things are on the blockchain, and so you don't have to worry about that, right? So that technology is amazing. Topps MLB had a NFT launch, I think it was a year or a year and a half ago. And I got into that, bought a pack for like $99 for like, I can't remember how many cards. And same thing. When you're early, like flipping was so easy. And I sold out of I think out of the 90 cards I had, I sold all of them but one. And it's a Ronald Acuna rare sports card NFT of the one where he's diving to a base, that card. So I kept it just like as a PC. I think I'm not even sure how much it's worth. Like, the thing about it being so new in the space is like it's so volatile as well. The price action is volatile. So like it was once worth $200. I think it went down to 50, so it's probably somewhere in between now. But I'm just holding it because the card looks cool. It's rare because the border, there's a different shine to it. So in the digital space too, like you're not limited to static images as well. So that's what's cool about sports card NFT. But what I'm more interested about is what I kind of said off the top of the show, like NFT backed sports card, physical sports cards, where it's the NFT that proves that you're owner of the physical sports card or the physical asset, and you could trade that more easily than like what we have to do now with high end cards. Some people fly out to just give it to them in person. That's a safer play, but with NFTs, it's just safer.
I could see like Topps now, like I could see so much potential in that space, like in terms of NFTs, just because you get your moments that are so rare, especially with digital technology, and they have that whole concept of capture Acuna's first MLB game. It comes on a Topps Now card, so that's where I could see a company like Fanatics Topps get into. I believe that would be valuable, right? Stuff like that. So again, it depends on where our market leaders really take us, right? And the I guess the industry leaders and the entrepreneurs that are the up and coming, right? So
yeah. And I should mention Candy Digital. I think that's the official MLB partner in terms of the NFT products that they release, and they have kind of similar to NBA Top Shots, like video moments of certain games, and they also have like limited release sets of last year's All-Star game. So there's a nice Vladimir Guerrero blue NFT, and it's just a picture of Vladimir Guerrero, and then there's different rarities, kind of like what you would see in print runs, like different refractor parallels, things like that. So I think it's so early still that the demand isn't as high as it probably will be in the near future. But some of those rarity cards, like some of those sell for a lot of money. So there's definitely early adopters, right? And like right now, it's all about collectability of these NFTs, but just like other NFTs, not in the sports card space, it's also going to be about utility. Like what can you do with the NFT that you have? And NBA Top Shots is actually exploring that right now. I'm not sure you're aware, but NBA Top Shots just released, or is going to release, a NFT that's for each team. And if you have one of these special NFTs, it gives you all-star game access for the next 5 seasons. Yeah. So if you buy a Toronto Raptor NFT, you can go back on courtside or in practice. I can't remember what the deal is, but obviously like that's going to cost a lot of money, but there's utility behind it, right? I think there's an auction. The minimum bid starts at $10,000 or something like that. But if you do the math and you could afford it, like what does that cost? Like front row access, like behind the scenes access. That's it might be worth it, right? If you're a really hardcore basketball fan. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff that's coming down the pipeline, especially with if they're more creative with the utility aspect behind some of these NFTs, and layer that on top of the collectability of these NFT designs. Like if it looks cool, that's an added bonus too, right? So
absolutely,
I love where we're going with this. Yeah, and I think we've talked before that we started airing the show. Like we would love to have someone come on the show to talk about sports card NFTs, see where they see where the future is and how quickly that might come.
Right.
So we'll look into that for you guys. All right. Thanks again for all your questions. And please, if you have any more you want us to tackle during this show, you can always reach out to us on Instagram, again, at Cards to the Moon, and follow and DM us there. Or I can also be reached personally at 5 Card Guys, and we'll do our best to address that in our future episodes. All right. Let's wrap up the show then with our regular weekly segment called Pick One. And this week, it's our Hot Takes edition. So each of us, we're going to put out 2 hot takes, and then we're all going to debate which one we think is more likely to happen. All right. So Hyung, do you want to start off?
Let's do it. Since we talked about the Kobe Precious Metal Gems, we'll start this off with our hot takes here. The Precious Metal Gems that was purchased for $2 million, the BGS 8.5 Emerald, is a great investment, right? if you had your $2 million, you're gonna invest it there, or versus we're gonna go the '96 Kobe Refractor, the Topps Chrome Refractor Black Label BGS that sold for $1.8 million. I believe it was golden earlier this year. So where would you spend your $2 million? Which one's the better? Which one's the better investment if they are great investments to begin with?
Oh, I think this question is designed for me. Damn it.
Well, it could go twofolds, because now you're saying, do you buy the card or do you buy the grade?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, the '96 Kobe Refractor Black Label at 1.8 million. That is, for me,
Grail.
that is the grail of all grails for any Kobe collector. That is, man, like I would just dream of having that card. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I thought about this one for a bit. I'm actually going to go with the PMG being the better investment at that price point. And for me, I would pick the Black Label on a personal level, but I think investment wise, and I say this because we're going to go back to like the fundamentals of the hobby and collecting. And it comes down to collecting sets. And the PMG has become so like world renowned within the hobby because it's one of those sets that these high end collectors, they want it badly. And a lot of these PMG collectors, they're missing one or two cards. And normally, what are the 1-2 cards they're missing? The Jordan and the Kobe. That's what they're missing. And these high-end collectors, when these cards pop up, normally they're willing to pay whatever the cost to complete that set because they've been waiting for it for 15 years, 20 years, whatever they've been waiting for it. They've been waiting a long time. Now, you and I and all of us know when you're collecting a set of something, for example, Clark, you start collecting the home field advantage, and the one rare card you're missing is the Griffey SSSP or something like that, right? And it never pops up. And that one day you've been waiting for it and you've waited a whole year and it pops up on eBay and the auction's out. You're going to be like, okay, I'm taking my wallet out because I'm not letting this one get by me, right? So I think that general concept within the high-end collectors, in terms of investment, I can see the PMG Green. I could see that one being the one that could be way more lucrative and the better investment for $2 million. And, who knows? Maybe the guy who got it in this private deal, if this was open to auction, maybe it would have been more than $2 million. We don't know, right? So
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Man, I thought this was super easy when Hyung put it out there first. I'm like, oh, Black Label.
Oh yeah, like
Topps
no
Chrome
question.
Refractor, hands down. Like it's. But then off the top, you're like, oh, it's numbered to 10. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, that's it's rare, and it's a nice green emerald PMG. I'm gonna still go with the Topps Chrome Refractor Black Label, because I did say that there'll always be demand for PMG in my opinion, but is there a possibility that PMG cards go a little bit out of fashion? And then if even if it does, then you're going to see a dip because it's not going to be as in demand. Like right now it's so hot. Like PMG market is burning, right? So people are willing to overpay, right? So, but will that always be the case? Versus rookie cards will never, go out of fashion. Rookie cards is the chase for most collectors, right? And for Kobe collectors, it's the Topps Chrome Refractor,
Absolutely.
And
100%.
And it being a Black Label is the cherry on top.
Oh man!
And I think that's just gonna keep going up. And so for me, I'm going with the Black Label Topps Chrome Refractor.
Nice. And I anticipated you guys both saying the Topps Chrome Black Label, but that was my thinking is, you buy the card, not the grade. And that's our principle, right? So it's like, this is the one instance where you're allowed to buy the grade, I guess, because there's only two in existence, I guess, or something like that. So I'm going Black Label. Although, John, 100%, I agree with all the points you made. I think the PMG might outsell that. You just never know, right? It could potentially, right?
I can see that too, yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's just crazy to see that, there's two Kobe's this year that sold for $2 million bucks. But yeah.
All right, and I just want to point out, I'm still buying the card. I love the Topps Chrome Refractor. The grade is just a cherry on top. That's right. I just want to.
It's insane that crazy of a card exists in a black label. That is incredible.
Yeah, it's only like a $1.7 million upcharge for that black label.
All right, Johnny, you want to go next?
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna. My 1v1 is on the market. So obviously COVID is seemingly kind of like quote unquote coming to an end. It looks like everybody's kind of learning to deal with it. Now, as things start to normalize, people kind of getting back to whatever was normal for them before, how they spend their money. My 1v1 is what do you guys think is going to happen? So in this upcoming year, we will see a new boom in the hobby. You got things like everyone can now attend card shows uninhibited. You don't have to maybe not wear masks and all this jazz. So we'll see a new boom in the hobby this year. Or two, there's going to be a bit more pain in the hobby to come as people start spending their money elsewhere or reserving their funds or selling their cards to fund like a business purchase. Hyung being one of those, and myself too. Like I think this year I've kind of made the thing to say like, you know what, I'm going to reserve some money, sell some cards, spend it on the family, some trips and vacations and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, what do you guys think?
I can go first. I think out of those two possibilities, I think there's going to be a little more pain. Like I think the boom, a big part of that, in my opinion, is because we're locked down and we're in front of a screen, and now that that's taken away, there's just going to be a lot of other options. Like you mentioned, for the case for the there being a little bit more pain. So I don't think it's going to be like, I don't think the hobby's going to just tank. I think it's still going to grow. I think the industry is still going to grow, but maybe it won't spike like we've seen in early 2020, right? So right. And like there's so many other factors too, interest rates, like all these things that are with inflationary measures, like things that are just beyond our control. That's going to play a factor in what people can spend, the discretionary spending. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there will be a boom, but obviously certain spikes depending on releases. There might be some pain from ripping and not hitting, ripping boxes and not hitting. But obviously, I think in the bigger picture, market correction is the better term. Everything will correct where it needs to correct. But yeah, I think there, like Clark said, there will be a little bit more pain in every aspect, just because of what you guys said. But also, it just takes that one card that people can make money. That it's kind of like that whole golf thing. It's like you suck at golf, but you hit that one shot that keeps you coming back and spending another $100 to waste another 4 hours, right? It's like one of those situations.
Yeah, you just rip your driver on the 18th, and you're like, "Oh, I gotta play again."
What? Yeah, I gotta play again tomorrow. God damn it. Yeah, so one of those. But yeah, I'm an optimistic guy. Like I said, if everybody does their due diligence, I think you'll see a little less volatility, right? The problem is everybody in the whole world is day trading cards. We never expected that, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right, boys, it's I don't want our pod to just be like this prosperity gospel where we're just talking cards to the moon, cards to the moon. I am going to go with the sweep and say I think there's going to be a bit more pain to come in the hobby. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think one thing is that that I think that could really trigger it is the concept of overprinting. So as we kind of touched on it at the beginning of the show, as we see overprinting, I feel like this year we're going to see tons and tons of cards in retail at Walmarts and Targets just sitting. And I think as people see them sitting on shelves and not getting bought out, that's going to start to create the perception that, oh, this isn't that hot anymore. This isn't, I don't need to like chase this as much as I thought I needed to. I don't need to like rush out to the Walmarts and get it. So I think that could start a little bit of a snowball effect of cooling down the market even more. And then I'm actually, with all that being said, I'm actually curious to see what happens in the crypto market, because we kind of touched on this too in that saying that the hobby now has kind of been following a lot of parallels to the crypto market, right? And I think if we start to see the hobby break away from some of the highs and lows and the movement of crypto, like if it starts to separate, that could be an indication that a lot of these new investors are leaving the sports card hobby to go elsewhere, right? Like completely leaving and going elsewhere. So I'm going to be kind of curious to see the crypto parallel patterns for this upcoming year, to see exactly what's happening to the hobby. But, I don't want to sound like this is like a big doomsday thing. All this being said, I think if you're a hobbyist, we all might take a bit of a hit this year, and we might anticipate it a little bit, but we're all in this the long run. Like I'm in this for the long run. Anyone who's, you sat on cards when you're young, and you're in it today. You sat on all your Pokemon cards when you're young. You sat on all your Marvel cards when you're young, and you sit here 20 years later. You're probably done well for yourself, right? So I think we were in this for the long run, and I think people think it's doomsday or get really sad because they say, oh, I'm in on this player. I love Luka. I think long-term he's a big-time hold. And you buy it, and 30 days later the card goes down, and you're like, oh, this is the worst. Like, what happened to that strategy that you're in this for the long run, right? So like Hyung says, that
True.
whole concept of day trading, like we got to kind of get that out of their minds. Like the day trading concept is what affects our psyche on a daily basis as a hobbyist, right? So get that out of the minds, know that we're in this for the long run, and I think we're going to be totally fine.
Yeah, agreed. And related to that, and before I go on to my 1v1 and close out the show, like if you think of it in the long run, and it's a bear market for sports cards, it might be the best time for you to invest in a blue chip card. Like if it goes down enough, right, like that's the time where you're like, oh, I thought I could never afford a Mike Trout rookie or a Luka Doncic
Right.
silver prism
Right.
or anything like that.
Right.
If you can scrap some money together, those cards are probably the ones you should be targeting
For sure.
and then holding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of looking to do now, to tell you the truth. There's so many nice cards that I didn't even pay attention to when the hobby was hot. It's like, I'm not going to spend 10,000, but I might spend 2,500 now, now that's
Right.
at that level, right? So,
Right.
Absolutely.
all right. Okay, my 1v1 is Wander Franco's first Bowman autograph rookie cards, and we'll just say PSA 10 base, which is about 3,400 right now. It's going to be worth more than Vlad Guerrero's first Bowman autograph base card, which is valued at 5,500. So 2,000 more at the end of the season.
This is the autos, right?
These are the autograph, yeah.
Okay.
Versus Wander Franco's first Bowman auto rookie card base, PSA 10. It's going to be worth less than Bobby Witt Jr.'s first Bowman autograph rookie card, which is 2,300. So over 1,000 less currently by the end of the season. And really, I'm just throwing out these numbers and these players for you because I want to get your sense of how hot you think Wander Franco is. Like, he is the guy everyone's talking about in baseball cards right now. So you think the hype is so real that he has the possibility and the talent to, to have his cards keep going up, so much so that, it's worth more than Vlad Guerrero, who came in second in MVP voting, just to remind you guys? Or do you think the hype's going to die down to the point where it's about the next big rookie, like Bobby Witt Jr., for example, and he's gonna, like, his cards are gonna be worth more than Wander Franco because everyone likes the new shiny thing. So what do you guys think?
You threw a few wrinkles in my brain with this question. This is one of those questions that are so bipolar, like they're different lenses that you're saying, the underrated, overrated kind of like
Right.
thing, right? But I think I get it. And where you're going with it. I personally think Vladdy's going to have another unbelievable season. So I don't think the first scenario is most likely, because I actually think Wander Franco is overpriced. And I think his prices are going to take potentially a dip. And here's why. And on the flip side, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be a stud this year. I think he's going to drop 30. So with those combinations, I'm going to pick the latter, the second one, which is they'll drop lower than Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to take over, is more likely to happen. And here's the reason. There's no doubt in my mind Wander Franco is going to be Wander Franco. He's going to hit between 280 and 320. He might win a batting title one year. He might hit 25 home runs, and, drive in 80, 90 runs, have really good season. But to me, like, I feel like that doesn't sell. Like it's like Bo Bichette. He hit 298, 28, 102. And there was no movement. So when you see something like that with Wander as a whole, I think Wander, long term, absolutely. Where his prices are today on his Bowman Chrome, I think they're super, super inflated for what he's done and the type of player he is. Bobby Witt Jr., on the other hand, comes out Rookie of the Year, 30 bombs, hits 280, 30 bombs, Rookie of the Year contention. I think this is where people fall in love with, players in their rookie season, and this is where prices reach kind of like their peaks, right? So I'm not saying that that's a scenario that actually is going to happen, but that I believe that's more likely to happen than
right.
Wander outdoing Vlad's 50 home run season this year, and his prices beating Vlad's. So
makes sense.
Stupid question because I don't know, but Hyung, is Bobby Witt Jr. known to be a home run hitter?
Yeah. He dropped like 31 last year in AAA. In probably 480 at-bats. I don't know. It's something around there. Right. So he's hitting home runs at a pretty good rate. So I think he's a 30-plus home run guy in the big leagues, yeah.
Right. Man, good question, Clark. I think they're both super hot takes, but I think Hyung stole exactly what I was thinking. For me, the pattern that I've seen in the baseball market is chicks dig the long ball, the Nike commercial from back in the day. Like every time we've seen cards spike over the past couple of years, it's because it's something related to the home run race, right? Like Ohtani's cards didn't go crazy because, he's this unicorn that hits as a pitcher and he does well as a pitcher, but he was a part of the home run race. Vladdy was a part of the home run race. Tatis, Acuna early on were hitting 10 bombs in 4 games, and that made their card just go to the moon, right? So I think if you're a part of that race, that's what's really going to make your card go nuts. And Wander Franco, I don't think he will be a part of that race, right? So he's going to do Wander Franco things, but I could see his card cool off. And I think somebody like Bobby Witt, let's say he just gets hot. He comes out swinging. He's got 12 bombs in 25 games. And he's leading the majors in bombs, like that could really set off his card big time. And if he keeps it up at the end of the season, who knows? But let's say he goes for 39 home runs or 40 home runs as a rookie and wins Rookie of the Year. Like they're both very unlikely scenarios for Franco's cards to go higher than Vladdy as a home run hitter. And then for Bobby Witt, a relative unknown, to go up against Wander Franco. But I would bet on the home run race more than anything on this one. So I'm going to pick the Bobby Witt Jr.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a sweep. And the main reason why I wanted to do this 1v1 is like the hype is so it is hot for
So
Wander Franco right
crazy.
now. And
Where was this last year? It could have been the same.
Exactly. And I think I think early on or at some point last year in 2021, I was in on Wander Franco. I thought there was value to be had. And then it was just a little bit too expensive for me, it was like 15, 1600. Now it's like, shoot, I should have bought it at 15, 1600 because it's like double the price now, right?
This is the sell period. Last year was the buy period.
I know, right?
Exactly. So, but it's so hot and insane right now. And I agree with you guys. Wander Franco's going to be a stud. I think the big question is will he develop more power? I don't know. Right. He could make some adjustments and grow into his body a little bit more. And if he does, then yeah, he's going to be I think in the top tier conversation. But that's still a big question mark. And yeah, just because everything's inflated with his values right now, like you said, Hyung, based on what he's accomplished in a season and season and a half, and the fact that everyone loves the new rookie coming up, and they're gonna, those values are gonna go up as he gets closer to being called up. So I could see more likely that Wander Franco's cards dip under Bobby Witt's. So
yeah. Watch Bobby Witt not even make the team, and we all get screwed.
But I will say, 2022 Topps Chrome will be really fun.
Ooh,
I think it will be really good if we get Bobby Witt Jr.
If we do,
in there
yeah,
too, and
Oh
a
my
couple
gosh.
other prospects like Julio Rodriguez. But anyways,
Yeah,
we it's a long one today, so we'll cut it off at that.
we'll buy a case when the Topps Chrome gets out for sure. For sure. All right, like Hyung said, this is, I think, the longest episode we've had. It's definitely a marathon, but thank you guys for following us on Instagram and following our podcast week after week. We appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And if you enjoyed this show and all the shows before that, we appreciate also if you give us 5 stars on whatever platform you listen to. And yeah, we'll be back here on Tuesday for another new episode. See you later. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.